Hello, everybody, and welcome to the July 19th, 2022 iteration of the Kubernetes SIG Windows community meeting. As always, these meetings are recorded and uploaded to YouTube, so be sure to adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct. Let's get started with some announcements. First announcement for today is that there's a PR open to remove the HNS v1 code path from kubeproxy. I believe that we had discussed previously that all the CNIs are likely on the HNS v2 APIs, so this should be safe to do. If anybody has any concerns about that, please comment on the pull request. James, do you have anything else with that, or is that pretty much it?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. I think we actually broke support for HNS v1 already because of the PR that David had opened up that does all like the extra caching and speeds up queue proxies. And so this is just making it official.
Sounds good. Next announcement is Code Freeze is August 2nd. That's 2 weeks away. It's coming up pretty soon. So if there's any PRs that we want to get in for any enhancements, I think I know Ravi's still tracking some for the OS field. Start letting us know if we need to prioritize reviews or finding reviewers from other SIGs, and if there's other PRs we want to get in, let's just try and do that. Does anybody else have anything to announce?
For features that we want, maybe the node log viewers, maybe.
Yeah, I saw some activity on that PR recently. I know Tim Hawken was asking if there was anything else from him, and I saw Arvin responded. We'll try and get, I'll take a look at that today, and then we can maybe deep dive next week to see where we are with all the enhancements that we're tracking. Yeah. Okay, next is can welcome some new contributors. If there's anybody on the call who is new and wants to introduce themselves or ask some questions, feel free to do so. And yeah, no obligations, but if you'd like to do that, feel free.
Hi everyone, my name is Fadi. I'm a PM at Microsoft, and this is my first meeting here. Looking forward to just learning about how we do things here. Thank you.
You sound really quiet. Is it just me?
Nope.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, I barely heard you. But give. What do you? Okay, I think we can. What I heard was that was Fadi. He's a new PM at Microsoft, and he was joining. If audio issues get resolved, we can hand it back over to him too. But now we can get started on the agenda. James, do you want to demo your kubectl plugin?
Sure.
Let me stop screen sharing.
All right, let me see if I can do this pretty quick. So we've got a few other things on the agenda too. All right. Do you see?
Yep, I see your whole screen.
Okay, and it's got the console in it. Oh.
Yep, and the browser just dropped.
Yeah, okay, cool. Awesome. So with the host process container feature, I wanted to make it easier for us to be able to get onto a Windows node for debugging. I'm often SSHing through the master node into a Windows node, which requires some fancy SSH stuff. In particular, like on AKS, since we don't have the control plane nodes available to us, I often have to do a bunch of port forwarding fanciness to kind of eventually get to the node. And so with host process containers, since it gives us access to the node, I wrote a little script that did this for me, and then I turned it into a crew plugin. So this is the website, so you can go see the code and everything that runs. But I wanted to just give you a quick demo of what this actually looks like. So on the right hand side, can everybody see this? Is this too small, or should I try to see if I can reproduce this?
Looks okay for me.
Okay, so here I have a Windows node, this capc conf, and then over here I've got crew installed. So if you aren't familiar with crew is kind of the kubectl plugin location where you can go. Let's see, I think I have a link here. It's a place where you can get all these different plugins that plug into kubectl. And so I've got the Windows one that I've added down here. I think it just brings us to the URL I gave before. But there's a whole bunch out there. They're really cool. There's a few that I use pretty regularly. There's one called NodeChill that does this for Linux. And so I wanted to make the same thing for Windows. And the way you install this is kubectl crew install. Typically you just say like Windows debug and it'll install, but I found a bug, and so I'm just fixing it. And so and it's being published to the manifest right now, so it's not quite there yet. So I'm just going to install the latest one so I can show you a couple features. Once that's done, it gets installed locally. Now I can do Windows debug, and I can paste in the URL. It's going to select that node. It's going to run that image on it, and now I've got a shell access to my Windows node, so I can go to the C folder. I can see everything in here. I can do things like hnsdiag list, list all, and I can see all the containers, all the network, all those things. One of the other things that I have done is included a specific image in here, and this is going to get cleaned up quite a bit once we so this is my container root folder. This will get cleaned up in the new version in 1.7 that Mark and folks are working on. But in here, I've created a folder for apps, and I've got Vim in here, so I can go cd into there, and I've added Vim to the path. And in the current version of containerd, this doesn't quite work right, but it will be on my path, and so then now I can drop in and use Vim kind of right from my Windows thing. So I've added some extra tools to this to make it interesting and usable. Since Vim isn't something I'm not going to necessarily probably install on my host machine, I bring it along with the container, and all of a sudden now I can edit all the files kind of quickly and tweak configurations and that type of thing. So yeah, you can also one of the other cool things is I can also specify images. And so I can specify, Mark has this, this scratch image that makes it doesn't have anything in it, so it boots really fast. So that's one option I have. I can also run this. I have another image that I have some other tools installed on it, like sysinternals. And so now I can come in here and I've got all the sysinternals running, and I can just, do whatever I need to do. Here, I think it's accept, what is it, accept EULA. Oh, it's going to hang because I didn't accept it, but I forget the exact syntax, but I can actually accept the EULA here and use like sysinternals pretty quickly on the machine. So that's everything I wanted to just quickly show. If you're interested, it's up here. You can give it a try. Hopefully pretty soon, this latest release will be in the crew index, and you can just pull it and not have to use the little fancy thing I did there. So cool.
Awesome. Very cool.
And that works with AKS? No problem?
Yeah, AKS has, in 123, we have host process support. So you can use it right on AKS or any cluster that has host process enabled. So 123 plus and 122 if you enable the feature gate.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to be running container D 1.6 plus.
Question, since I actually needed something like this today, is there any way to also copy files from, locally to a Windows node itself?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so once that node is up and running, you can open up another shell and you just do kubectl copy the file, just like you typically would to a pod, and it will show up on the host machine.
Cool. Yeah.
I think
so
with
it makes that whole process so much easier.
Yeah.
I think that there's an issue with path syntax for the kubectl copy commands. There's an issue right now to try and fix it, but I believe that if you need to get an absolute path, you can do like / / to fake the UNC name to copy the files to the node.
I used it this morning actually, and it worked just fine. So
I'll have to look and see what that issue was then too. But yeah, that's very cool. Do you want to share your screen again, James, or should I share because you had the next agenda item too?
Oh, I guess I can share it again.
Quick question: what was it like to, I guess, go through the process to upload this as a crew plugin? Was that hard? Like, how did you go about doing that?
Yes. So, can you see my screen again with the CT debug? So I'm using this crew release bot component to do that, and so I've got a couple workflows that enable this. My plugin is really simple. It's not even a Go plugin right now. It's not even a Go tool. It's just a bash script. And so I just tar up the packages and then release it to GitHub Actions. And then I call this here. And this actually automates pushing this out to the crew plugin for me. It took me a little bit figuring out like how this works. I'm actually going to do a CNCF workshop on this plugin in a few months, and I'm going to talk through how to do the whole crew thing. But so this is the plugin. This is the actual PR that I was mentioning earlier. Oh, hey, he merged it. So I didn't even have to do it. It's supposed to automate the whole merging thing. I'm not sure why I didn't automate it, but he gave me the approval. So you can actually go use the version that I just showed today by just doing k crew install. But yeah, once you have it automated, it's pretty easy to, the rest of the automation all works pretty simple. So.
This is cool. So what is it? It's k crew install.
Yeah, so it's, if you just do k crew install Windows debug, you'll get the latest version. And then you just specify the name. Cool. Any other questions before we go to the cry Windows pod stats?
Can you talk about that scratch image of Mark's? What is that?
So yeah, this is something that I was experimenting with. I was seeing if we could make a scratch image for host process containers that didn't really have any files in it. And the answer is yes, we can.
That's cool.
It works for host process containers. I think we'll have more information on that in the future.
What's the size of the image? Is it literally the size of the scratch image for
It's maybe 2 or 3 kilobytes.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. That's,
Yeah, it only works with post-process containers.
Yeah.
And yeah, especially when Brendan gets back, we'll have more to share about that.
that's pretty cool. I love it.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll move on to crystats. So crystats is a KEP that's in alpha right now, and it was implemented for Linux. And basically what they're trying to do is move everything from, they're trying to remove all the C advisor information from kubelet, and there's a bunch of other collection stuff in kubelet, and push that down to the runtimes. And so this is being implemented in Containerd. I think Cryo also implements it, and we're missing Windows implementation. So to do this, we need to add some fields to the CryPod sandbox stats. And I've done that. I've also commented, so I did the kind of naive implementation, which is just taking exactly, that's weird. I took kind of the naive and just used the Linux, exactly what Linux is using. But things like memory usage, we don't actually use a bunch of those things for Windows. And so I went through and specified everything that we do and do not use, and what's the equivalent. And then also, Danny is working on Hyper-V support. And so we wanted to make sure that these pod stats would work for both Hyper-V and process isolated in Containerd. And so so I went through and said like which ones we're using and which ones we aren't. And so I think we had a little bit of a conversation on here around like what's the best way to expose these? Should we expose a common set of them for Hyper-V and process isolated? Should we have very specific ones for each? And I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention here so people could jump in and comment on this. We do have this opportunity to kind of design this and have a Windows first experience here instead of just going to the Linux. And so I think we've had a little bit of conversation back and forth. And I think the last few things is just how do we, I think we decided that essentially we would like to make Windows specific fields. Do we reuse some of the ones that are not Windows specific that we can fill out completely? How Windows specific it is? Do we change all the container stat calls to use all these new Windows fields? That type of thing. So please take a look at this and give some feedback. I'm going to bring it to SIG Node actually right after this meeting and get some of their feedback. Just I want to get someone from their side looking at it as well.
Yeah, and I think I had a comment. I think where we're settling, then some folks from Node have commented on this too, is like these CRI based stats are not meant to be like completely exhaustive. They're not meant to be everything that you would need to monitor your system, but they are enough to kind of provide the equivalent of what the kubelet is exposing through cAdvisor today, just not using the cAdvisor endpoints. So I think the idea is to still expose those to the kubelet, but then if you want really in-depth monitoring stats, and potentially things like knowing that there are different stats for different, container modes on Windows with Containerd, those are probably best to be exposed through the container runtime itself, and then have something like node exporter or like something scan those. So this is not meant to be completely like exhaustive and completely transparent to the system. But yeah, if anybody is, especially folks who are, infrastructure providers who want to provide see more insights into the Windows nodes through this mechanism, please comment, chime in. You could talk to me or James if you don't want to comment on the issue too.
And I do have a Containerd PR open that uses these stats to implement this essentially. And so, but we can't do anything with this until we decide on what this cry looks like. So yeah, please take a look.
All right. I'll share my screen again. I think I had the next update. So I wanted to give a quick update on host process containers and where we are. A few weeks ago, we mentioned that we were going to be delaying the GA of this until hopefully, well, we're delaying it. So we're not GAing the feature in 125. Hopefully we'll be able to GA the feature in 126. And the reason, like one of the big reasons was we're changing how volume mounts work. And we wanted to try our best to see if we could have some sort of a backwards compatibility story to help people who have built host process containers and workloads that you run in host process containers transition from old implementations to the new implementations. And now we think that we have that. The current, there were a number of changes that went into HCS Shim recently that will be getting vendored into the new or container D 1.7 release that will should bridge that gap, and we can demo that at another time, maybe after code freeze, since some of that's more urgent. But for at least several releases of Containerd and Kubernetes, what we'll do is we'll mirror the volume. We'll mirror any volume mounts that go into the container, both in the new, more desirable location, which can be accessed just through absolute paths instead of needing to use this environment, that container sandbox mount point environment variable, and we'll mirror them into the old location and build up the same directory structure that you'll see, where you'll, where you'll be able to use that container sandbox mount point to root them off of. That I'm currently in the process of ensuring that all of the existing ED tests that we have pass with the newer behaviors. There's a couple of differences that I'm working through with Danny about that, but I think overall we're in pretty good shape to both support the new volume mount strategies the way we wanted it to, even on Windows Server 2019, and also be able to have a smooth transition for folks who are upgrading their clusters or updating their container runtime without needing to rebuild and all of their workloads. So if anybody has any questions, as always, feel free to reach out. Shinchi, do you want to do a demo?
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen.
Let me stop sharing my screen. And I do need to drop right at 10 to go to the node meeting with James. So if I drop, Jay, I'll probably hand off meeting ownership to you.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so
What do I see? It's not letting me stop my current. Oh, okay.
Chinchi is one of our rising stars at VMware, doing all the TKG Windows stuff for us. So I'm excited to see this.
thanks for that.
She's been working with the meme on this.
And I'm actually gonna give an update on the core networking test of this operators. So currently we have already mapped all. So we have a tab here. We have a tab here, and we basically finished this networking part, basic networking part. So as we see that it's not working. Okay. Where is it? Oh, here. We have 10 test cases here. And we also, in our operators, we match each of the test cases with the upstream E2E test. So if you use this binary, if you download this binary and run the and build it right like this, so you define the categories, the core network, and specify your cluster, you will start all the networking tests of the Windows cluster, something like this. It will like take 20 minutes to finish the test. I won't let, we don't need to wait for it right now. I already redirect. I ran that yesterday and redirect the output to a file so we can see that here. So when you start, it will like run, there's 10 test cases and currently we are running the first one. And here's the case we're running. And you see if we looking for this one. So each of the test cases will be run one by one here. And it actually, you can see it passed here. So if we go to the second one, so if you go to each of it, you can find that most of them are success. There's only one test case about the stateful set, which is not success at this time, but I'll like fix that later. But you can see that most of them are success. So with this binary, you can run the networking test of this in just one command. And that is what I get here. Oh, by the way, one more thing is that there's a test case about this one, restarting the service. So I have a PR open for this and it haven't been merged yet. So the result you see here, the E2E test binary I'm using is built from my own branch. So after the task case is merged, you can use the upstream E2E test binary to run this. Op Redis. And yeah, that's basically my updates. Oh, and for the next step, after finishing core networking part, I'll go ahead to the storage part and finish the rest of the test cases here.
Yeah, it'd be cool if we could eventually be able to upload these someday to K8's conformance, but I don't know if they'll let us. But I filed an issue there, nobody responded on it yet. But for broader context, like there was always for us a lot of confusion about what a Windows cluster is from a conformance standpoint, because the Sonobui plugin has a declarative way of specifying Linux conformance, but not Windows conformance. And so we're hoping to, once Shinji finishes this tooling, actually be able to have a Sonobui plugin that like then triggers this so that we can have some kind of a declarative one-liner for, any customers or whatever. When they have problems, they can just run that and they'll have a very clear readout of exactly what does and doesn't work in their Windows environments.
Yeah, actually this one, this operational readiness tool can trigger the Sonobui test. I just didn't run that in this way. I directly use the binary to run, but actually it supports the Sonobui way to run it.
Yeah, we could just do the Sonobui now. That's great. Okay, yeah. So
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, thanks, Shinji. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
I need to drop now. Claudio, do you want to talk about the Padina stuff, or should we just push that to next time?
No, I'm fine either way.
Okay, well, maybe let's move that to next time. Give people some time back. All right, so thanks everybody for joining, and good to see everybody. See most of you next week.
Cool.
Bye.
I guess we can close up shop then, folks.